Hi, welcome to our latest bonus chat. This is from our pod recording looking back over the Ireland v New Zealand test. If you missed that, you'll find it on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. Well, this week, we'd like to talk about the new law variations being tried out in the 2024 Autumn Nation Series. Of course, there has been a lot of disagreement over one of them in particular, namely the 20-minute red card. But that's not the only thing being tried out. There are new interpretations around the kicking game as well, plus some more emphasis being put on timing at set pieces. So it's probably about time we harped on them to see which ones are helping and which ones are hindering. Starting with yourself, Rich, what do you make of them?
Yeah, I'll start with the ones I don't like, or the one I don't like, which is the 20-minute red, because I think there has to be an element of deterrence. And I accept that the red card for really nasty behaviour is still there, is still an option for the refs. But the fact of the matter is that they're never going to go for that, are they? They're only human. It's an easy decision to say, yellow card, over for review, end of. Give somebody else the problem. It's human nature. So I don't particularly like that. I mean, we had two examples today. We had actually three examples today, because I really do think that Rafael should have been red carded. There was obviously not quite the same as the Randrandra one, not least because of the size differentials there, and the fact that he had a direct line of sight, and he ran for about 20 meters at Cam Winnett, and bowled him over with a direct hit to the head. But pretty much that's what Rafael did earlier, albeit in a breakdown situation in the clear out. But anyway, so you have two very similar incidents. One gets upgraded to the red card, the other one doesn't. But then Fiji is allowed to bring another player back on after 20 minutes, which is fine if you want to create a spectacle. I haven't got a problem with that aspect of it. That rationale I haven't got an issue with. What I do have an issue with is that you need to protect those players first and foremost. That has to be paramount. And if teams know that they will just plan for this, instead of, they already planned for playing with 14 for 10-minute periods, we'll plan to play for a 20-minute period. And that is precisely what Fiji did. It is precisely what Scotland did today, because they also had a man sent off. So really not a fan of that. I don't think it should stick, not least because it's taking it out of or away from the referees' hands by their own collusion, because they won't want to take any other decisions, especially in big matches. The one that the law that I do like is the whatever it's called, the no access law for the kicking. I really like the fact that they are encouraging the competition for the high ball. I think that will favor people. I don't think we played it, with one notable exception. I don't think we adjusted to that particular new law tactically as well as we ought to have on Friday night's match. And I appreciate it was our first match with those new laws, but we haven't yet tactically evolved in that regard, but clearly we will. But it creates a far better, more level playing field, more exciting level playing field for the game. So I really favor that particular law. The other one is the set pieces, and not just the set pieces, but also the breakdown and the using of the ball quickly by the 9. It speeds the game up. We had the first, well, at least that I remember, of a team getting pinged today, and that was Scotland, by Christoph Ridley, for not using the ball when he called the 9 to use it. So that I do like. And one which actually favored us last Friday, which was in the scrum, where you can't just really keep it in there and keep pushing and pushing and pushing until eventually you milk a pen. If that had been the case, I think we would have seen a couple of props getting yellow carded, to be perfectly honest and brutally honest with you. So I like that, because it's in, out, and let's carry on playing. Nobody wants to see, with all due respect to props and forwards and what have you, nobody wants to see a lot of reset scrums, a lot of, no, you don't. Of course you don't. What you want to see is the ball in, out, the tussle, and off we go. Let's carry on playing. So I really like that law. I think it'll chip away at the advantage that some teams have who have historically used this to secure penalties and then away we go. But those other teams who haven't got the level of beef that some teams have will benefit from it, I think. Until as usual with these things, until it becomes level again and people just adjust as they move along. So that's my take on those. My very quick take on those three.
Yeah, I mean the reason for the changes, like you say, is to sort of improve the game as a spectacle. I mean, there's a lot of delays, a lot of reset scrums. I mean, there have been other things changes like you can't if there's a free kick at a scrum, you can't have another scrum for the free kick. Things like that do improve the game as a spectacle. But there is a limit to that, and it comes into direct contact, ironically, with what's being tried to be done with the collisions and these high shots and these head there's an attempt to alter behavior for the sake of people's careers, basically,
Yeah.
to improve tackle technique, not just at the professional level, but so that kids watching will say, well, listen, I better get my tackles lower as well, because I watched that big game and I saw what happened to him. He got sent off and blah blah blah. And this is those attempts are being made that we've seen over the past few years are going up against a mentality where they say, oh, it's ruining the game. As if I mean, we're three fans. We watch these games. We have a beer and we watch the games, or we go to the games or have a beer with the crowd and stuff, and it's great. We enjoy it and stuff. But for the sake of that enjoyment, for the sake of us going, oh God, I hate when the game is ruined with a red card in the first 5 minutes, versus the possibility of changing players' behavior and say, listen, there's another way you can do this. Maybe get lower with your tackles and change your behavior. And maybe the next time you won't ship a red card after 5 minutes of the game. And that can improve it that way. That's the contention that's going on. And to me, it's a bad choice of phrase, but it's a no-brainer that you don't sort of try to compensate for for something that happens, that it's 15-14 for 75 minutes. Like, so what? Do you know what I mean? It's like when you consider what you're doing it for. You saw it in the Fiji game with Wales. They were able to come back and they had their 15 men towards the end of the game, and it could have actually been a different result had it not happened. What do you think, Tom?
Look, over the years, we've all been following rugby a long time. I think rugby union over the years has the ability to shoot itself in the foot. And one of the worst things to come out of rugby union in the last few years is that red cards ruin games. I'm very much on the deterrent side. We take the semi-red Radra incident today against Wales. That was a red card, stonewall red, and behavioral changes needed to be, to learn to not do that, and not, he hit Cam Wennett hard on the head, and Fiji shouldn't have been rewarded 20 minutes later by bringing another guy back on. I also believe for Rory Darge, people say, oh, he didn't mean it or he didn't intend. That's a career ender, possible career ender on the South African second row player. We all remember Dan Levy a few years ago. It doesn't matter if it's accidental or not. And I think Rory Darge is a fabulous player and he didn't mean it. But it's poor technique, it's dangerous, and it could break his guy's ACL, do damage to his knee, or finish a career. That's the reality about it. So the red cards, these 20-minute red cards for me is just, it's counterproductive to safety of players. And I'll follow that sort of theme on to one of the other rules that they're bringing in is the 30-minute set, or 30-second allowed for a set piece. For me, thankfully, I know we were frustrated slightly by the scrums in the first half against Ireland, New Zealand. There was 7 scrums in that first half. And the new law is that you have 30 seconds from the time the referee blows his whistle. One of them was 50 seconds. The rest of them were well over a minute, and there was one over 2.5 minutes. Now I would never, having played a bit of forward play in my life and in the front row, I'd never sacrifice safety for just having this quick scrum like it's the 1980s where you just 8 guys, 16 guys plowing into each other with all no angles, and the ball is coming out. Scrums are a lot more powerful now. There's there's 140 kg guys out there, and there's 125 kgs packing in behind them, and there's probably 115 kgs packing in behind that. So I wouldn't be on to sacrificing safety if it takes the scrum to set properly. Um, Berry didn't enforce that rule because I think there was 2 free kicks given in the first half for it under this new rule, under this new law variation. But we still want to do what we do, want to speed up the scrums, but that law really, he didn't really implement that law at all in the Ireland and New Zealand game, where I know there was 2 free kicks awarded, but as I said, there was 7 scrums and none of them were within this new time limit whatsoever. So it's a balance there between getting it right safely for scrums to engage properly, which is always something New Zealand, the World Rugby are trying to get their head about. They took different steps out of the scrums to speed it up, and the touch, engage, etc., and try to reduce it down. And they just need to stop playing with it, I think, a bit. I don't think this is going to do any favors. You're going to see a lot more free kicks given as this rule is implemented, and scrums will be slightly taken out of the game, and you'll find innovative coaches that will pick a pack that's mobile, that's fit, a load of back row players, and just give away free kicks at the scrum, but you've got 15 speedsters on the pitch. I'm speaking of an extreme, but rugby, there's always the butterfly effect in rugby union. We think we're fixing something, and it creates another issue somewhere else. I tend to agree with Rich on the escorting. I was worried that we would see a lot more kicks. I did a little bit of analysis on England v New Zealand and the subsequent games between England and New Zealand, and our own New Zealand game against Ireland, and the subsequent games in the World Cup and our New Zealand tour, and pretty much 48 to 55 kicks in each of those games. So it hasn't resulted in a lot more kicks. Rich rightly pointed out we didn't exploit as much as maybe we should have. But as long as there's a lot more, it doesn't increase the kicking by 20% or 25%, that we're seeing kicks up at 70. I'm okay with that rule. I like to see in the contest. There was one, I think it was in the Ireland New Zealand game, there was one good contest in the air where 2 players went up, and more of that, please. Absolutely. And common sense approach, because it was very much hands off, guys receiving balls. So if that works, I'm quite happy to it. I'll still try and look at the data, and is it going to increase the number of kicks? Because you don't want to see teams setting up for box kicks, knowing that's coming, and just continuously playing that. So that's just the way I finish it off. I says, when you mess with the laws of rugby too much, there's always the butterfly effect. You think you're fixing something, and something else is created down the line. And coaches, and they have analysts and teams of analysts, that are there to do their job, and they'll be looking at every angle possible to exploit the new 30-second set piece rule, especially around the scrum and the escorting law. But yeah, I'm happy to go with those 2, and the old red card to keep the Kiwis happy, 20 minutes in the bin. In the bin, that no time for that rule. I just think it's counterproductive for the safety of players, and it's a nonsense to say that red cards ruins games.
Yeah, I mean, on the escort rule, yeah, there was one particular, I think, in the Ireland New Zealand match. I think it was Will Jordan and Mac Hansen, and I think that went exactly the way what they wanted the laws to achieve. It was a good contest. Jordan won it. He just got to the ball first. He grabbed it, and the play just went on. From there, there was no risk of collisions. There was no awkwardness. With those blockers, they could push one guy into another. There could be a jump. That can get really dangerous. That went perfectly. Now the stars don't always align like that, like you say, and then you say, the coaches will find a way around it. But we just. That was a case of it going right anyway. And on the 20-minute red card, I mean, what I don't understand about it is, like you say, it's a New Zealand thing. We've heard, I think, is it Justin Marshall is always going on and complaining about it, and it's this notion of it ruining games and stuff. It's I think an Australia, New Zealand kind of pact that brought it in. But then we saw the Irish, the RFU and the French publicly coming out against it. I mean, if you don't have agreement with all the test nations, I mean, how does it end up in the actual game? You know, it's a strange one. Hopefully, they are trials. Maybe they won't last down the line. Maybe they won't. But given the next World Cup is in Australia, I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see. But there's definitely a lot of discussion to go on there.